before you met Kristen, when you were in your early 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah.
If you could, if you're capable of rewinding the clock, what do you think your like mindset and attitude toward your hypothetical future life as a husband and father was? Like, did you think about that? Were you looking forward to it? Were you like, it's kind of snuck up on you?
Yeah, no. So I knew I wanted to get married. I knew I wanted kids. And always, right? Because I feel like that was just, but it was also like in society, that's just sort of what you do. So that was probably part of it. Like,
sure.
My parents, everybody I knew, married, a couple kids, and that was the thing. But I knew I did want that. But when I was in my 20s, and this is advice I would give to 25-year-olds, so I can even jump right into that
jump right ahead.
Because when you were talking, I was thinking of being 25 and what you were saying around the fact of like, 25-year-olds now, maybe the absent fathers or divorce and all that stuff. I don't think people, and this is different from our parents' generation, who got married in their early 20s, had kids, maybe in their late 20s or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think that, in my opinion, works very well anymore. And definitely would not have worked for me when I was in my 20s.
Do you think it did work for like that prior generation?
I do, because
so they were correct to do it that way, and you're just saying, but things have changed, so change the strategy.
I think like what you were saying, socially, even economically, just all of that stuff lent itself to you went to school, you graduated high school, some people went to college, other people just got married, right? A lot of times the wife stayed home. Yeah. Man worked, and like that was just the way it sort of worked, and that was just what socially happened. And then as things went on, to your point, every 5-10 years or whatever, there are subtle changes that happen. Right. And I think now, I don't think people are mature enough to get married in their 20s, right? I definitely was not, and I would likely be divorced if I did probably get married in 20s to any of the girls that I dated. In my 20s, right?
For the record, we have a policy in our marriage that we're the first people we ever met. I don't know what you're doing over there. But if you expect me to be like, I totally get that. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, and it's mainly around, you need to live your life a little bit, and that's in my 20s is when I was doing traveling to go hang out with friends from college or friends that I met post college that lived in different cities. Go to Chicago, we had guys weekends away, and it was easy because we weren't dating people or like seriously dating people, and we didn't have a family and that sort of thing. And even jobs, you tend to have crappier jobs when you're first getting out of school, right? And even if they're like even just throwaway jobs where you're just waitressing or waitering, like, your tables or whatever. If you have corporate jobs, that's where you're spending your time working, a lot of hours during the week, and you're making your networking connections because that's going to help you get jobs down the line.
You're making the investment. You're sacrificing short-term time.
Exactly.
And that stuff.
And when you're 23 years old, 25 years old, 26 years old, that's fine to do, because if you go to work at 7:00, you don't come home until 7:00. You just, who cares? Like no one's really there to see. But if you're doing that a lot when you have kids, it gets a little bit tougher, and you start missing out on their lives. And if you can't do it all the time because you have other commitments of going to a soccer practice, or you want to coach like your kid's soccer when you're 25, I think you're missing out on the relationships you're making at work with just your peers in general. But then higher up managers and like that sort of thing. So it definitely would not have worked for me, because that was my 20s was when I was, figuring out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. And like, as cliched as it is, like who you kind of are,
So do you think at that age you consciously were thinking to yourself, I am not Greg, 25-year-old Greg, I am not ready to settle down right now. Like I am stiff-arming serious committed relationships so that I can get through these years until I'm in the right place in my life that I'm going to seriously consider that.
And even if I did have like long-term relationships,
hypothetically,
it was, looking back, it was stupid to do that, because it was not, I knew I wasn't going to be on the track of marrying this person or like whatever. It wasn't going to be for a long period of time.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So you had that sort of expectation in your head in your 20s. Okay.
I did. And because I think I saw a lot of my friends.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think I saw a lot of my friends, or not a lot of them, the ones that did get married in their 20s.
And that's what I would recommend to others as well. Okay.
Yes.
Now, let's say whether it's because of life milestones, because of personality, whatever it is, this person who's listening to us, and in addition to that, you're saying you actually observed friends of yours who did try to settle down in their earlier mid-20s and that went poorly.
Correct. Yes.
Tell me more about that.
So either, divorced, because and it was all the same thing. Even the ones that didn't get divorced, it was the same problems where people still wanted to go out like in your 25 years old to bars, to, I don't want to say clubs, it's not like we went clubbing, but like, bars and club type like atmospheres. You want to go to a Red Sox game on a, Tuesday night in July. And there's times you can't do that. So there causes friction. And it's like, well, I'm 25 years old. Well, you're married. Why do you want to be running around with like all your single friends? What are you doing? And seeing that, it's like, well, I don't want any of that. I know I want to be running around with like my friends on a Tuesday night. Like that's what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So tell me more about, it makes sense that you saw that and that like sort of reinforced this mindset or strategy that you had in your early and mid 20s, but it can't be that like you benefited, like that's how you formulated that mindset. Right, like at what age do you think you started to think, like, formulate this strategy in your mind? Like, were you 10 and you said, "I've got an idea. I'm going to spend the next 15 years keeping the serious girls away," or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know how to articulate that, but like, how do you think that idea came to mind? Of like, because you said, let's see if I can recap. Like, one, in your early and mid 20s, you've got to work some rough jobs.
Yeah.
You're not making a lot of money and the hours are bad and you have to like hustle.
Yep.
Just to like get your foot in the door and start making a name for yourself and start climbing that ladder.
Yeah.
So that's like, there's economic and like career forces.
Yep.
Then there's these social forces of, well, you want to be able to socialize and to experience things and sort of be in an adventurous mindset.
Right.
Along with your other single friends. And like, settling down would create friction or maybe fully preclude you from doing that.
Right.
So there's like that social and like sort of individual chapter of life mindset.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, like, if you're able to say like, yeah, I started getting this idea in my head, like talking to an older cousin or like a mentor of mine or like my teacher in junior year of high school was like,
I know what you're
whatever
saying.
you do, don't get married in your early 20s. Like, where did the idea first come into mind?
I don't know, to be honest. That's a really good question. And I want to say it could be my parents that said it too, where they were like, which is odd because they got married, in their early 20s.
They did. Okay. Yeah.
They didn't have kids until, maybe their early 30s. They probably didn't started having kids until like roughly I started like having kids myself. They
just had a longer
time of just being
married.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like they probably said, what's the rush? Like why,
Yeah.
It just, and it's not like I dated a lot of people. It's not like I always had a girlfriend. I didn't.
Right.
So I think it was just a thing that they said, make sure you live your life and make sure you're comfortable in taking care of what you want to do before you settle down. Because once you do, that's sort of it. Like you're going to have commitments and you're going to have all these other things that you need to do. And just kind of hearing that and thinking about like, oh, I have fun doing this. I have fun doing that. Well, wait a minute. I won't maybe be able to do that if I'm married.
Yeah.
Or I won't be able to do that if I have kids.
Right.
Then it sort of just was in my head of like, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't
perceive on either of your parents' parts, like that they had some kind of regret of like I mean, not that I don't love your father,
sure.
but like, I kind of wish it'd been like going to Machu.
I don't think so. I think both of them, again, the times were like all their friends got married too, but I feel like a lot of them, they may have gotten married, but a lot of them didn't have kids. They started having kids all around the same time.
Oh, interesting.
So they maybe had their young time to go and like
with
do
their
stuff with their spouse.
Interesting.
And with like they had couples that were the same way. So that was a different dynamic a little bit where their maybe core group of friends we're all in like a really similar situation. And that's probably accurate, because I want to say a lot of my friends or my parents' friends, their children that I'm friends with.
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
Wouldn't be, and we're all roughly around like the same age within,
There's not some big
4
age
years or
variation.
something like that.
Yeah. So it does kind of sound like they, at least among your parents' friends, they all kind of had a similar strategy.
Yeah.
Settle down early, but don't start having kids till you're like after you've had some, adventures in your 20s together. Interesting. Okay.